Good day, everyone. My name is Gently Permanes, and I will be reporting the safety and health risk management. Safety and the manager. Why safety is important? Several years ago, while filming Star Wars, The Force Awakens, a hydraulic door on the Millennium Falcon spaceship slammed Harrison Ford. He couldn't work for several years, but thankfully wasn't injured seriously. Safety and the accident prevention concern managers for several reasons, one of each struggling number of work accidents. For example, in one recent year, at least 5,190 people died at work, up to from about 4,800 the year before. The workplace accident caused about 2.9 million occupational injuries and illnesses. Such figures probably underestimate injuries and illnesses by 2 or 3 times, and they ignore the suffering the accident caused the employee and his or her loved ones. Safety also affects costs and profits, as the accompanying profit center picture illustrates. Improving safety boosts profit. Many people assume that when employers economize safety programs, the money they save improve profits, but that's not the case. For one thing, poor safety practices raise wage rates because wage rates are the higher job with riskier working conditions. Other things they equal a poor safety and injuries, illnesses, brigades, including medical compensation and lost productivity. They are the saber the chief financial officer, including for $1 invested in injury prevention. The employee earned $2.40 said productivity was the staff benefit and effective workplace safety. One of the poorest product companies saved 1 million over 5 years investing only $50,000 in safety improvements and employee training. In the United States, work-related hearing loss cost employers about 2.242 million a year in work compensation. Claims alone costs are probably avoidable through earmuffs, earplugs, and training. So one of this is here way to cut costs, boost profits, to spend money improving safety. Top management roles in safety. Several years ago, an energy company CEO was convicted over the deaths of 229 workers in coal mine. His conviction highlight the fact that the people at the top, CEO, president, and board members must set the occupational safety. We will see the reducing accident after boils down reducing accident cost condition and the accident cost acts. However, telling employees to work safety is futile unless everyone knows the management taking safety seriously. Well, all held are saying lead example, and when it comes to creating a successful safety culture, this is saying that still rings true. In fact, the tone of the safety is usually set from the top, moving safety from just another program to an uncompromised value within organized and everyone respect and follows will ensure its success. Deepwater Horizon. To critics of BP safety practices, the Deepwater Horizon disaster in the Gulf wasn't just due to the malfunctioning brownout preventer. To them, right and or wrongly, the accident reflected the fact that BP corporate strategy had long emphasized cost cutting and profitability and expense of safety. For example, 5 years earlier, a report by the Chemical Safety Board blamed a huge blast at BP at Texas City. Texas City all well-known and cost-cutting on a safety strategy and aim reduce accident but left in unspent unquiet equipment. To that board and some others who study BP safety practices, Deepwater was another example of how encouraging safe employee was start at the top and how the top management strategy can trap even earnest efforts to improve employee safety behavior. A subsequent movie, Deepwater Horizon, they speak a BP executive visiting and rich and annoyed by drilling delays pressing the crew to ignore test results that in fact actually showed the rig about to blow. The supervisor role in accident prevention. As in most such cases, the employer had the primary responsibility for safety, but the local supervisor was responsible for the day-to-day inspection. Here, the supervisor did not properly do his inspection. The trench did cave in injury workers and secondarily costing his company many thousands of dollars. Whether you're an IT department management in Fortune 500 company or managing an excavation or dry cleaning store, daily safety inspection should be part of your routine. As one of safety recommendations put it, a daily work through of workplace weather or working in outdoor construction, indoor manufacturing, or any place that poses safety challenges is an essential part of your work. Manager briefing on occupational safety law. Improving safety boosts profit. Congress passed the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 197024 to assure so far as possible every worker, man and woman in nation safe and healthful working condition and preserve the human resources. The only employers it doesn't cover are self-employed prisons, farms which only immediate members and employees and family work, and some workplaces are already protected by the other federal agencies or under other statutes. The Act covers federal agencies but usually not state and local government. The Act created the Occupational Safety and Health Administrations within the Department of Labor. OSHA basic purpose is to administer and the act to set the enforce the safety and health standard that apply almost all work in the United States. OSHA has about 2,200 inspector workers from the branches around the country. The next one is what the employer must report. Employer must report all occupational illness as in figure 16 to 30. They must also report the occupational injuries, especially those that result in medical treatment other than first aid. Those conscious restriction of work, one of the more lost work days. Restriction of motion or other transport on another job, 31. If an on-the-job accident result at the end of the employee. All employee, regardless of size, must report the accident to the nearest OSHA office. Even if the employee is hospitalized in inpatient treatment because of the work-related incident, the employee must notify OSHA within 24 hours. Okay? Next one. Inspection and citations. OSHA enforces its standard through inspection and its necessary citation. Its inspection usually unannounced. OSHA may not conduct warrantless inspection without an employee consent. It may inspect with an authorized search warrant. 34 with a limited number of inspectors. OSHA has focused on fair and effective enforcement combined with outreach education and compliance assistance and OSHA employer cooperative programs such as its voluntary protection programs. Inspection priorities. In inspection, OSHA takes a worst case approach. The priorities include from higher lowest imminent dangers, severe injuries, and illnesses. Working compliance, removal and of hazards from other agencies. Targeted higher hazard industries inspection and follow-up inspections. In one recent year, OSHA conducted about 32,400 inspections and there were about 43,500 state inspections. OSHA's publicly posts employee safety and health data in an effort to encourage safer practice. Conducts an inspection within 24 hours when a compliant indicates an immediate danger and within 3 working days when a serious hazard exists. The inspection. The inspection begins when the OSHA officers arrive at the workplace. He or she displays credentials and asks to meet an employer's representative. The Act protects each employee from retaliation for exercising his or her own whistleblower rights. OSHA inspector looks over types of violation, but some areas grab more attention. The 5 most frequent OSHA inspection violations were pole protection, hazard communication, scaffolding, respiratory protection, lockout, tagout. But finally, the inspector holds the closing promise in the employer's representative. Here, the inspector discusses apparent violation, which OSHA issue recommended citation and penalty. At this point, the employer can produce records to show compliance for efforts. Penalties. Penalties OSHA can impose penalties. This generally range from $5,000 to $150,000 for willful repeat serious violation, but can be far higher, 13 million after Tragedy BP Texas City plant, for instance. Many OSHA cases litigation, the Press-City settlement, OCJ issues the citation and agreed on penalties simultaneously after the employee initiates the negotiation. Settlements, non-serious violation, may carry no penalties. In general, OCJ calculates the penalties based on the gravity and violation, usually taking into consideration things like the size of the business, the firm, compliance history, and the employer's good faith. OCJ must have final order from the Independent Occupational Safety Health Review Commission to impose a penalty. An employer who files a notice contests that drag out appeal for years. OCJ publicizes the inspection results online, provides easy access to most companies. OCJ enforcement history. And here's the responsibilities and rights employers and employees. Both employers and employees have the responsibility and rights under the Occupational Safety and Health Acts. Employers are responsible for providing a workplace free from recognized hazard, for being familiar with mandatory OSHA standard, and for examining workplace conditions to make sure the conform OSHA standard. Employers have the right to seek and advice of site and consultation of SHA. Request and receive proper identification of the OSHA compliance office before inspection, and to be advised by the compliance officer the reason for a inspection. Employees also have the rights and responsibility by OSHA can cite them to for violation of their responsibilities. Employees are responsible, for example, for complying with all applicable OSHA standards, for following all employee safety and health rules and regulations, and for reporting hazardous conditions to the supervisor. They have the right to demand safety and health on the job without fear of punishment. Retaliating against employees for reporting injuries or safety problems is illegal. Dealing with employees' resistance. Although employees are responsible to comply with OSHA standard, they often resist. The employer usually remains reliable for any penalties. The refusal of some workers to wear hard hats type PPs. This problem employers have attempted to defend themselves by citing worker intransigence. In most cases, courts still hold employers liable for workplace safety violation. The independent three-member Occupational Safety and Health Review Commission says employers must make a diligent effort to discourage the discipline if necessary violation of safety rules by employees. Cited the workplace injury, the employer may claim employee misconduct. Site docs digital workplace safety. Safety compliance usually has been managed centrally by human resource managed or by a specialized safety unit. However, new digital mobile device may safety system now give manager and give employees more influence over safety. For example, the SiteDocs digital safety management system let the employer digitize more or move, store, work with and access safety documents via mobile devices. iPad and the web 55 employees can log in via mobile device and view complete their safety documents such as OSHA reports. This come available immediately to management. This enables management to monitor in real time whether employees are completing their documentation and to identify almost one workplace hazard and incidents. What causes accidents. There are the three basic causes workplace accident: change occurrence, unsafe condition in employee, unsafe acts, change occurrence, such as walking in tree just when the branch falls and more or less beyond management, and we will therefore focus on unsafe condition and unsafe acts. What causes of unsafe condition? Unsafe condition are the main cause of accident. They include improperly guarded equipment, defective equipment, hazardous procedures around managed machines and equipment, unsafe storage, congestion and overloading. The fifth one is improper illumination, glare, insufficient leak, spills on floor, tripping hazards such as black aisles, working from heights including ladders, scaffold, electrical hazard like frame cords. The solution here is to identify and eliminate the unsafe condition. The main purpose of OSHA standard is to address the mechanical, the physical accident causing condition. The employer safety department and human managers, staff managers should responsibility for identifying unsafe condition. For example, when a conveyor which liquid chocolate suddenly started in pulled the mangle and the army worker who was cleaning it. About one-third industrial accident occur around forklifts, truck, wheelbarrow, and other handling and lifting areas. Construction accounts for this proportion share accident with pose the major problem. Safety schedules and climate. Work schedules and fatigue also affect accident rate. Accidents usually this increase do not noticeable during the first 5 or 6 hours of the workday, but after that the incident or the accident rate increases faster. This is due to partly to fatigue and partly to pack accident occur more during night shifts with reduced headcount and more people with second jobs. Employee fatigue is a growing problem. Similarly, accidents occur more frequently in plants which seasonally lay off rates. Hospitality hospitality among employees, many guardians wage and bleak living conditions. What causes unsafe acts? Unsafe employee acts such as running which undo your efforts to banish unsafe conditions, but there are no easy answer to what causes people to act unsafely. There is no explanation for why people behave unsafely. Sometimes the working condition from unsafe acts, as with stress out oil rig workers. Sometimes the employee don't get the required training nor learn safe procedures. For example, personality traits that correlate with peeling, vehicular, and insurance claim include entitled. I think there is no reason they should not speed. Impatient, we're always in hurry. Aggressive, the first to move when the light turns green, and the distractibility, frequent distracted by the cells, eating, and so on. How to prevent accident? In practice, accident prevention boils down to reducing unsafe conditions and reducing unsafe acts. Large firms generally have chief safety officer. Small business safety can practically problematic. For example, owner might naively overlook crucial safety activities such as chemical hazard training. There are no easy solution. However, the firm's HR manager should make sure top management. Number one, underestimate or understand the potential problems. And number two, actively seek solution such as having OSHA conduct a safety audit and make recommendations. Reducing unsafe conditions. Reducing unsafe conditions like those OSHA addresses is the employer first line defense. Safety engineers should design jobs to remove or reduce physical hazard. Supervisors plays an important role. And reducing unsafe condition is more important. Office to 74, for example, get written confirmation that the space meets all building codes. Make sure the builder, contractors, and or landlord follow OSHA standard. For instance, unblock exits. Make sure the lease let you compile the landlord. Safety problems. Make sure your air ducts are clean. Job hazard analysis. A systematic approach to identifying and eliminating workplace hazard before they occur. Consider the safety analyze, looking at the Yale Science Lab with aiming and identifying potential hazard. Performing a job hazard analysis here might involve looking in situation, asking for question. What can go wrong? A student hair, the clothing, shoe. This is the some question that you might hear. Okay. The job hazard analysis should provide the basis for creating countermeasures. For example, given the speed with which such as a latter accident would occur, and likely the training by itself would suffice. Instead, the light area should be encloses it in its own protective casing and change made to ensure the lads can speed unless the student take action via foot pedal. Employees therefore should particularly focus on serious injury and fatality. This starts with identifying high hazard events. For example, accidentally cutting one fingers with a knife is not potentially catastrophic. Cutting by catching it in an automated slicing machine. So first identify such potential high hazard events, then conduct job hazard analysis and implement product preventive steps. Operational safety reviews conducted by agencies ascertain whether units under jurisdiction in complying with applicable safety laws, regulation orders. For example, under AEA Operational Safety Reviews Program International, teams expert conducted depth reviews of operational safety performance for nuclear power plant. Personal protective equipment. In this personal protective equipment, similarly called whether means an employer should protect their outer workers. This should be include among their other things monitoring temperature and wind condition, making sure workers are supplied with cold weather apparel, monitoring workers to sign frostbite, and providing adequate indoors breaks. But again, reducing unsafe condition in the first line of defense. OSCG says employer must institute all feasible engineering and work practice controls to eliminate the reduced hazard before using PPE to protect against hazard. Diversity counts, protecting vulnerable workers. In designing safe environments, employees needs to pay special attention to vulnerable workers such as young, immigrant, aging, and women workers. For example, although 14 and 15 years old can generally only legally work a job like cashier of an office worker, 16 and 17 years old may take all the job cooking construction. In recent year, about 16 to 17 years old were injured at work. Similarly, as one of the engineering company CEO said, for decades, women essentially were ignored when it comes to designing eye and face protection. Today, more products and available in smaller sizes. And one of also needs plans for dealing with health issues. Thus, in the case of the cardiac arrest emergency, early CPR, external defibrillators are essential. This should be available in one or more employees trained to use them. Reducing unsafe acts. While reducing unsafe condition, the person depends. Human misbehavior will short circuits even the best safety efforts. Sometimes the misbehavior is intentional but often it's not. For example, distraction can contribute to about half of the car accident. The National Safety Council estimates the cell phone as involved 24% of all motor vehicle crashes at work at noticing moving stationary object or that floor is wet open cause accident and or ironically making a job safer with machine guards and PPE lower people risk perception and thus can lead risk behavior. Reducing unsafe acts through screening. In reducing unsafe acts through screening, the employers aim to identify the traits that predict accident on the job and then the test candidates for these traits. For example, the employee's reliability index measured dimensions such as emotional maturity, consciousness, and safe job performance. Employee also use work sample tests and tests of physically and abilities to determine if the person can do the job. Some employers conduct physical demands assessment. This itemize the job physical demands such as lifting 40 pounds an hour and working 90-degree heat. The employer then use to develop the precise screening and training of the jobs. Reducing unsafe acts through training. In safety training, reduce acts, especially for new employees. Here, the employees should instruct employees such practice procedures from them potential hazards and work to develop safety conscious employee attitude. A standard don't just require training employees must demonstrate that they actually learned what to do. Um, the main aim to safety training is not to meet OSHA training standard, but they impart knowledge and skills to reduce accident. One study found that the most effective safety training elicited employee engagement. The least engaging programs including lectures, films, reading materials, and video-based training. Moderately engaging programs include computers, interface instructions with feedback engaging. Once included the behavioral modeling, simulation, and one hand-on training. Reducing unsafe acts through posters, incentive, and positive reinforcement. Employers also use various tools to motivate worker safety. Safety posters are one of the substitute and comprehensive safety programs. Employees should combine posters with another techniques like screening and training to reduce unsafe condition acts and change the poster open poster should be easily visible legally and well lit. And lastly, one of the option see accompanying profit center discussion to emphasize the behavioral incentive like recognition. In any case, the incentive program should be part of the comprehensive safety program. Using positive reinforcement. Many employees successfully use positive reinforcement program to improve safety. Such program provide workers with continuing positive feedback, usually in the form of graphical performance and reports and supervisory support to shape the workers' safety related behavior. Research introduced one of the program, Wholesale Bakery. The new safety program included training the positive reinforcement. The researchers set and committed additional safety goal. Whenever observer worked through the plant collecting safety data, they posted the graph percentage in incident have seen perform safely by the group as a whole, thus providing the workers with positive feedback. Reducing unsafe acts by fostering a culture of safety. Employers and supervisors should create a culture of safety by showing they take safety seriously. One study measured safety culture in term questions like my supervisor says a good work whenever he is the job and according to the safety rules. My supervisor approaches work during the discusses safety issues according to one safety expert. A workplace with a safety oriented culture exhibit. Number one, teamwork in the poor management and employees both involved in safety. High visible interactive communication and collaboration in safety matters. Number three, a shared vision of safety excellence, especially in an overriding into attitude that the all accidents and injuries are preventable. Assignment of critical safety action to specific individual or teams. Number 5, a continuous efforts toward identifying and correcting workplace safety problems and hazard. Number 6, encouragement of incident reporting. Reducing unsafe acts by creating a supportive environment. Supportive supervisor teams seems to have an safety records. Organization can develop supportive environment by training supervisor to be better leaders, emphasizing the importance of teamwork and social support, and establishing the value of safety. Reducing unsafe acts by establishing a safety policy. The company's written safety policies should emphasize that accident prevention is of utmost importance and that firm will do everything practically and to eliminate reduce accident and injuries. Reducing unsafe acts by setting specific loss control goal. Set specific safety goals to achieve, for example, the set safety goals in terms of frequency of lost time injuries per number of full-time employees. Reducing unsafe acts through behavior-based safety and safety awareness program. Behavior-based safety means identifying the workers' behavior that contribute to accident and training workers to avoid these behaviors. Teneco Corporation implemented one such program. The firm selected internal consultants from among its quality managers. The training managers, engineers, and production workers after training, the internal consultants identified 5 critical behaviors for Teneco Fair safety programs such as eye on task. Does the employee watch his or her hands while performing a task? The consultants made observation and collected data on behaviors. They institute training programs to get employees to perform these 5 behavior properly. Employers also use safety awareness programs. In safety awareness program, new workers receive critical information regarding the job, common safety hazard, and simple prevention methods. Often when first arriving at the job site, for example, the Roadway Safety Awareness Program from the American Roads and Transportation Building Association addresses tracker safety issues such as stopping distances required at various speed. Reducing unsafe acts through employee participation. Employee participation play a central role in safety programs. As OSHG says, to be effective, any safety and health programs need meaningfully participation of workers and their representatives. Workers' participation means that the workers are involved in establishing, operating, and evaluating and improving the safety and health program. Ideally, the employer should encourage all workers to participate to feel comfortable reporting safety and health concern and to have access to the information they need to participate in the program. The employee engagement section in this chapter illustrates this. Employee engagement guide for managers. Milliken and Company world-class safety through employee manager engagement. Milliken and the company design, manufacture, and markets chemical floors covering the protective fabric and textiles. It has about 7,000 employees in more than 39 facilities around the world. The privately owned Milliken has received and widespread recognition for the quality on its innovation products, for its high employee engagement, and for its world-class employee engagement safety program. It also the only company that consistently ranked a most ethical company for 15 years running. A survey of Milliken's employees found an 80% positive engagement level based on a question concerning employees' commitment, pride in company, and empowerment efforts. Its extraordinarily low workplace illness and injury rates make it one of the safetiest companies in which to work. Workplace health hazard problem and remedies. Many workplace hazards aren't as obvious as slippery floors, Many are unseen hazards that the company may use to produce as a part of its production process. Typically, here's a chemical temperature extreme biohazard such as mold and anthrax, and ergonomic hazard such as misaligned computers, screens, OSHA, and other safety standards cover many of them. Chemical and industrial hygiene. Managing such hazard come under the purview. Industrial hygiene involves recognition, evaluation, and control. First, the facility safety officer often working with supervisor and employees such recognize possible exposure hazard. This typically means conducting plant facility work surveys, employee interviews, record reviews, and reviews government OSHA and non-government standards. Hazard control involves eliminating and reducing the hazard. Here, personally protective gear should be the last option. The employee must first install engineering controls such as enclosures and ventilation and administrative control including training and improved housekeeping. Chemical and industrial hygiene. Asbestos exposure at work and air quality. Asbestos is a major cause of occupational respiratory disease. Efforts that are is underway to rid all building of the substance. OSHA standard require the several action with respect to asbestos. Employee must monitor the air when they expect the level asbestos to rise one of the half allowable limit. Engineering controls walls, special filters and fourth are required to remain or maintain a compliant asbestos level. Only then can employees use respirators and additional efforts are required to achieve compliance. Exposure to asbestos is a major potential source of occasional respiratory disease. Workers need to wear protective clothing and respirator to remove asbestos from buildings. Alcoholism and substance abuse. About two-thirds all of all drug users are people with alcohol disorder and employed. One system around 10 years ago was about 15,000 or 15% of the US workforce has either been hungover at work, been drinking short before showing up work. So it is important that no alcohol in work. Substance abuse testing. Dealing with substance abuse often involves substance abuse testing. It's unusual to find employers who don't at least test job candidates for substance abuse before formally hiring, and many states had mandatory random drug testing for high hazard workers. However, employers with critical safety issues like those with heavy equipment or in transportation continue to test. Others do as well. Burger King, Ford Motor Company still treat marijuana as illegal. Autonation continues to bar those who test positive for another legal drugs. And the factories, particularly with heavy machinery, a zero tolerance policy remains the rule. One food processing plants randomly test one employee every month, and we're going to move it to. Dealing with substance abuse. Ideally, a drug-free workplace program including five components. Number one, a drug-free workplace policy. Number two, supervisor training. And number three, employee education. Number four, employee assistant. Number five, drug testing. The policy should state a minimum. The use, possession, transfer, or sale illegal drugs by employee prohibited. It should also explain the policy rationally and discipline consists. Supervisors should be trained to monitor employees' performance and to stay alert to drug-related performance problems. The former, the former asked questions like this: have they ever attempted to cut back on alcohol? Been annoyed by comments about drinking? Felt guilty? This is the question that you might absorb. Dealing with substance abuse. For example, federal transportation law basically requires that a truck driver who fails or refuses to take a drug test be immediately removed from driving until successful completion of qualified counseling and environment. Minnesota, someone who fails a first drug test can be fired if he or she completed the rehabilitation program according to EEOAC. The American with Disabilities especially provides that employers may require an employee who is alcoholic who engage in illegal use of drugs to meet the same standard or performance and behavior as one employee. So, for example, the employees in general need to tolerate substance abuse related behavior such as absenteeism. However, there are many expectations such as whether test result involving precision, drug and medical, marijuana, and that suits of invasion, privately, and defamation are always possible. Therefore, it's prudent and publicize the substance abuse, the policy procedures, for instance, in the employee manual. Reducing job stress. Build, reg- build rewarding, pleasant corporate relationship with colleagues and employees. Don't bite off one more than you chew. Talk to your supervisor, for instance, to clear the air in relationship has become tense. Negotiate with your boss and for realistic deadlines were important. This is the reducing for this is for reducing the job stress. Don't put up dealing with the distasteful problems. Make sure constructive worries that include solution for each problem. There are several ways to alleviate this functional stress. This range from common sense reduce to by feedback, meditation, finding a suitable job, getting counseling, planning HA activities, and other sensible responses. In his book Stress and the Manager, Dr. Carl Albert suggests the following ways the person reduce job stress. What the employer can do. Employer and supervisor play roles in reducing stress. Supportive supervisor and peer treatment are important. Ruin and bullying from supervisor. One step including reducing personal conflicts on the job, encouraging open communication between management and employees. One British firm has a three-third employee stress reduction program. First, as the primary prevention, this focus in ensuring that the job designing and workflows are correct. Second is intervention. This include individual employee assessment attitude surveys to find source of stress and supervisory intervention. Third is rehabilitation, which include employee assistance programs and counseling. Burnout. Experts define burnout as a total depletion in physical and mental resources caused by excessive striving to reach an unrealistic work-related goal. Dr. Herbert Freudenberger suggests it's break your patterns. The more well-rounded your life is, better than protected you are against burnout. Get away from the periodically scheduled occasional periods introspection where you can go from a usual routine, resist your goal in terms of their strict words, think about your work, stay active. Employee depression. Employee depression is a serious work problem. Experts estimated that depression result is about 200 million lost workdays each year, costing employees $17 to $44 billion annually. Depressed people also tend to have worse safety records. One survey found that while about two-thirds large firms offered employee assistance programs covering depression, on about 40% of employees with depression said they ever used one. Typically, depression warning signs if they last for more than 2 weeks, including persistent sad, anxious, or empty moods, sleeping too little, reduced appetite, loss of interest in activities once enjoyed, restlessness and irritability, and difficulty concentration. Solving computer-related ergonomic problems. OCHA provide an e-tool for designing computer workstation. And this includes the following. Employees should take 3 to 5 minutes break from working at a computer every 20 to 40 minutes using the time from other works. Design maximum flexibility into the workstation so it can be adapted to the person. For example, use adjustable chairs and mid-back support, etc. Reduce glare with reduce device such as shades over windows and direct lighting. Give workers a pre-placement vision exam to ensure properly corrected vision to reduce visual strain. Allow the user to position his or her wrist at the same level as the elbow. Put the screen or just below eye level and distant 18 to 30 inches from the eye. Let the wrist rest lightly a pad to support. Put the feet flat on the floor or on the footrest. Repetitive motion disorder. Sitting. Repetitive motion disorder, including carpal tunnel syndrome and tendonitis, they result from too many uninterrupted repetition of an activity or motion or from unnatural motion such as twisting the arm or wrist. It affects people who perform repetitive tasks such as assembly line or computer work. Employer can refuse the problem, for instance, is programmed to help workers adjust their pace of work. Sitting. Studies suggest that the people who sit a lot are poorer health and need to get up and walk about 30 to 40 times a day. That's why app such as an iPhone health app prompts you to walk around early. Standing desks and slow treadmills up to 3 to 4 miles hours are other options. Infectious diseases. Employer can take steps to prevent the entry to spread infectious diseases. This step included: number 1, monitor the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Encourage employees to receive immunization. Provide daily medical screening for employees returning from infected areas. Deny access for 10 days to employees or visitors who have conducted suspected infected individuals. Tell employees to stay home and they have the fever respiratory system symptoms. Clean work areas and surface regularly. Practice hand hygiene and make sanitize easily available. Stagger breaks over several lunch periods to reduce overcrowding. Workplace smoking. Smoking is a serious health and cost problem for employees because they derive from higher health and pre-insurance, increased absenteeism, and reduced productivity. As when smokers take a 10 times a break behind the store, the manager can probably deny a job smoker as long as smoking isn't used as surrogate for other discrimination. Federal laws don't expressly prohibit discrimination against smokers. However, it is if a majority of company smokers also happen to be monitors, anti-smoking activities could be viewed as discriminatory. Occupational security and risk management. Workplace safety relates to risk of injury or illness to employees. Workplace security relates to protect employees from internal and external security risks such as criminal acts by visitor and terrorism. The employer's workplace security plan should address things like establishing a formal security team, protecting the firm intellectual property, for instance, through non-compete agreements protecting against cyber threats, developing crisis management plan, establishing theft and fraud prevention procedures, preventing workplace violence, and installing facility secure system. Many firms, of course, also have special handling procedures for mail package and hold regular emergency evacuation drills. Enterprise risk management. Enterprise risk management is the process of assessing exposure to loss within the operational, determining how best to eliminate, manage, or otherwise reduce the risk and adverse event from having a negative impact on the business. External risks can have come from outside the company and include the like political, natural disaster, and terrorism. Managing external risks might involve methods like scenario planning, in which company endeavors to identify, analyze, and plan multiple plans possible eventualities. Preventing and dealing with violence at work. Human resource management can take several steps to reduce workplace violence risk. Heighten security measure, improve employee screening, establish a zero tolerance policy towards workplace violence, guidelines for firing a risk employee, violence toward women at work, securing the facility. As noted, workplace security related to protect employees from internal and external security risks such as robberies and terrorism. This is start with the obvious. For example, the reception areas including need for a panic button. Number two, interior security including secure restroom and better identification of exit. Three, authorized involvement in particular emergencies procedure and develop with local enforcement. Mail handling including screening and opening mail. Number five, evacuation including evacuation procedure and training, and backup systems such as storing data offsite. Terrorism. The employer can take several steps to protect its employee and physical asset from terrorists and terrorist attack. This step, now familiar of many workplace, includes the following: screen that identifies to everyone premises, check mail and carefully. That's the main ano, cyber security, securing the employer's physical facility. Many do cyber attacks or on Facebook. While going similarly, hackers get personal information about 22 million US federal employees of its personal management server, business continuity, and emergency plans. Twitter notification. Social media such as Twitter are obvious choices for quickly communicating emergency information to large number of dispersed individuals, which tornado has reached connected. And few years ago, a city administrator used Twitter to tell citizens about things power and outage block roads. That's all. Thank you.